The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You are with Grace at Durian Heat, where we discuss matters around Southeast Asia. And of course, I've been speaking with Manisha, who is the director of M Talent in Malaysia. So let's talk about more serious business here, the issues, the struggles of being an artist. Because Manisha, you are an artist after all, before an entrepreneur, and then you've went through ups and downs, and you've seen a lot of situations and events before. So could you share with us?
Okay, I think like as an Asian or Malaysian creative person, we definitely, growing up, I think our parents, most of our parents would say, oh, you want to be a singer? Like, oh, you want to be a musician? You want to paint? No one really like directly encourages that, unless probably a small percentage of families, the lucky ones, or maybe they've had artists in their families, so it's probably a little more acceptable in theirs. But I think a lot of the general public, not a lot of parents would encourage people to pursue anything artistic as a career. Definitely. So I think in my past, I've dabbled in art because of passion.
Right.
So I've done poetry for about 1 to 2 years. I've always been a closet poet until I met this amazing group of student poets in the Cyberjaya area.
Right.
Like I think between 2010, 2009, around that time. And it was a chance for me to actually share my poetry. And it was a really good learning curve because that's when you sensed community. And with community, it encourages growth. So we got more quality poets even in that small little scene. And then I also tried modeling for a while, where I was one of the finalists for a female cover model search. I was in a pageant in 2009, like top 5 in this Miss Malaysia India Global pageant. So and then I also did voiceovers actually when I was working in Groupon for their adverts that always came on TV. And I learned even from the voice guild community that it's really important to support each other. So I think one of the struggles that maybe musicians or artists have is that they might feel alone, because they might feel, okay, I'm doing things a certain way and no one really gets it. So I think the solution in that is definitely to find like-minded individuals, and people who are just as passionate or who want to do things, and it always starts with that. Because I think there was this one famous saying, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend most time with.
Right.
So if you want to get somewhere, you definitely need to be around those people a lot. So I think that might be one struggle that artists normally have.
But when it comes to extending yourself further to become a stable artist, I think that's the struggle. That's where the parents' concerns come in. It's like, how are you gonna literally cari makan? When it comes to an artist.
It's a very valid concern. It's very, very valid. And I think 2 things play a part in that. One is definitely the person itself who chooses to take a career in something in the arts. That art shouldn't be looked at as something subjective, like if I'm going to create something, I'm going to wait for inspiration. No, that's not how it works. It's like you should look at it as like how athletes practice. They need to continuously do it in order to actually be able to perform at a certain level. So that's the thing with art too. Like even though it's a creative process, but it's not something that comes out of thin air. You really need to practice and develop your art, just like how athletes or experts develop theirs. So I think that concept needs to be looked at for people who are serious into pursuing a career. So sometimes parents, if they don't see that, then they're like, okay, we're not going to encourage you to do this. So that's a valid concern. Second thing is also they might not see enough support in the community. They might not see a lot of successful people in the talent industry. So that also makes them, afraid to let their kids venture out into it. But I think from the time I was growing up and now Gen Z, so I'm not very old, or neither am I very young.
You don't look old at all.
So I'm approaching 30 soon, but I think what's really good right now that I see a lot of people, thanks to social media and the digital age, that a lot of people are exploring their artistic sides. So that's really good for everyone. Yeah.
So you mentioned about online platforms. A lot of artists do venture themselves into become a YouTube stars, even on the Facebook. What is your perspectives on this? Do you think our generation or even younger generation than us, you think we are very privileged to have these platforms that sort of our mindsets are pampered in certain way?
I think it's a double-edged sword actually.
Right.
Because we are lucky to have these platforms, but the thing is, only those who know how to use it really benefit from it. So it's an option that is open for everyone. That's great. But do you know how to maximize that opportunity?
Right.
Because like if you see at markets that are more experienced than ours, like more mature markets, it's quite saturated, you know, these platforms. So how are you going to stand out? But here in Malaysia and in Asia, we're still very lucky because we still have space, you know, to dabble into this. And we still, that's why we need to stay creative even when using these platforms, so that the community gets fresh content, creative content. But the community also needs to encourage this. So in a way, it's a circle of life, you know. In order for everything to grow, everything needs to kind of like operate in a symbiosis manner.
That's very interesting. Let's discuss a bit further. When you see artists, you've been dealing with people for many years. So when you see people, especially artists in Malaysia, how do you view them?
For me, actually, I look at it in different. Personally, I look at it at the industry maturity, like the Malay market, the English market, and the Chinese market, and the Tamil market. You know, so because and I'm speaking based on music for that example for in music, because when it comes to fashion and entertainment, because we're in such a multicultural country that our art that we create also is segmentized sometimes to these different demographics. So certain demographics are actually more matured and well supported than other demographics. So right now I'm working more on the English scene, so the English speaking scene, because also potentially, even though it might not be a big market here right now in Malaysia, but it's easier to expand on globally, you know. And even when you get on YouTube or you get on global platforms, it opens more doors, you know, because you're not limited to a language. But other demographics also, it's really good because like their market is just here, you know, so everyone can focus here. So it's more mature in the sense they have support. They have like, you know, music marketers, they have like publicists for those kind of things, but you don't find a lot of that necessarily for the English scene right now, in my experience, for music.
Right.
So for fashion and for beauty and things like that, it's also very growing, but everyone is now heavily dependent on platforms, right? Online platforms. So I think learning how to utilize them well will definitely give you an edge.
How about the support from government or other organizations? Do we have enough support from them in Malaysia?
I think support is actually available, but we don't know about them as much, probably. So I think the bridge of like communicating what support is available to the people that actually need it might need to be improved,
right?
Because I think like there's creative ventures, which is an arm from the government, I think, trying to support the creative community, which I think is really great. They've given out a lot of grants, and we've seen Malaysian based businesses like, I think, fashion designers like Pearly Wong, and then there's this art agency called My Pa, and they've all been given grants from creative ventures. You know, they've pitched their businesses, you know, they've shown progress, and I think those kind of support is definitely important. There's like Magic, there's organizations like Cradle, you know, all these people, and they might not necessarily just look at tech. They also look, I think, at other avenues. So for creative entrepreneurship, art entrepreneurship, it's just that whether your business is viable or not. So that's what's important. And in order for your business to be viable, you need to make sure that, you know, you're hitting all the right numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's one of the advice you just given to us. But how about your perspectives from entrepreneurial outside view to grow, to make artists grow even more in Malaysia. What is your struggle that you've been through so far?
Okay, I think to make artists grow in Malaysia, one is demand in a way. Like I think we've seen definitely, like I think there's a platform called Gig Fairy that's also putting people out there, which is good, and all these encouragements are good, but I think we're still at baby steps. We're still baby steps. We still need to work with a lot of other people. I think one thing is like we definitely need to support each other and work with each other more in order to level everyone up, because everyone has different strengths, have different abilities. And I think the other thing is like what I realized, because previously when I worked in Groupon, there was a lot of startup community, digital age, and then a lot of sharing and knowledge sessions, that really helped young people to start their path in probably startup entrepreneurship, like digital entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of sharing from seniors, people who've made it, or people who are more experienced. They even brought people from abroad to do this, and not necessarily everything is done by the government. It's just communities that actually care, like people who care, who are putting this thing together to say like, okay, if everyone benefits from this, we're going to benefit from it. So I think the art community definitely gets together, but we have a lot of things to also showcase. To showcase that when we get together, we're actually enjoying each other's showcase, or we're looking at all the creative output that's coming out, but we don't take the time for learning and development. So I think there needs to be definitely, if people want to come together, I would like to do it. I would like to, if anyone out there wants to come and put together a learning platform for the creative arts, like just even talks or just setting aside some time to host some things, I would love to be part of that. I would put my time.
How would you create a platform from the first place to let musicians to open up their minds and just to communicate each other? Because sometimes musicians, they may look extrovert, but they're also very introvert at the same time. There are certain things that they don't want to share because it's their own value. So how would you say on this?
Okay, I love introverts because I'm a huge extrovert, and I think I work very well with introverts. Obama is an introvert, but he's like fantastic at what he does. Because I think introverts, like basically introverts who are like artists, for example, they make great artists because when they need to be, they can focus and they have their alone time, and then they look at when going up on stage or performing their art or putting out art. That's when they become focused on just that. They're not like all over. But I'm not saying extroverts are bad, because I'm an extrovert. So but I think bringing people together, it needs to start somewhere. I think another very successful example would be this movement called Incitement. Incitement also just started very small. It started very small in the Mind Valley office by the Mind Valley staff, and it was just talks and sharing on how to develop each other, and then it's now really going on globally. I got an invitation today on Facebook inviting me to join Incitement Sudan. I think it was Sudan. I was like, wow,
they're going really far.
That's far, but that's really good, because like these are ripples in the ocean that would connect each other. And I think my father has been in the education line. Like he's a salesman. He sells books, and he's been doing it for over 20 years. And he said, like, if you want to invest in something, definitely like health, education, and one more thing, I hope my dad won't scold me for this, I don't remember, but education is definitely a good thing to invest in. So I think, and that one everyone can benefit from. So I think when creating that platform and introducing a good sharing or learning session, or just where even the government can come in to say what they have put together to support the creative industry, that would be good. And content, I think, is important to attract the right kind of of people.
Right.
So if you wanted to attract these kind of artists or talents, then you need to put in content that is attractive to them. Because I think there are definitely programs like this, but not necessarily super attractive to the talent, or they don't know about it. That's the only thing. So we just got to keep on. It's how it works. We just got to keep on trying.
I'm having very interesting conversation with Manisha, who is director of M Talent Asia. But we gotta take a short break here. When we return, we'll continue our conversation. So stay tuned with us at the Durian Heat.